Cool. All right. So, um, you guys are obviously you're all here for your 2 hour renewal. Now you're within 6 months either before or after your expiration date, correct?
Yes.
All right. And then I know that Mark had called the sheriff's department, and you can mail this stuff in. You don't have to go in person.
I think we have to go in because we moved.
Oh, did you move?
Yeah,
Okay, did you call and confirm that? Because you might be able to make.
When did you move? Because I moved 5 years ago
we moved last year.
and never changed the address.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And she
Did you
said,
move out of El Paso County?
Yeah, we moved from Larimer County.
Okay, that might be a thing. So my suggestion is Monday, first thing, call them and say, hey, like, what do I have to do?
Yeah.
And they will definitely guide you.
they
Okay.
answer the questions very quick.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um. So yeah, put your name on there exactly how it is on your license, and then put your existing permit number on the certificate, so there's no confusion when you go to turn this stuff in. And yeah, and then we'll get started. Um, so while you guys are doing that, I'll just go through a quick introduction. So my name's David Williams. My company is AAA Coach. You obviously found me on a website or something like that, and that's fine. So these pamphlets here, let me grab that pamphlet from you. So I'll be talking about attorneys on retainer later on in this class. I highly suggest attorneys on retainer. They're backed by a law firm, and this is a QR code to get to that. If you use that QR code, you'll get $25 off. And then for a family, so two people, it's about I think it's $50 a month for two people. So you'll get self-defense coverage after that, and we'll cover how important that is here in a little while. Obviously, you can get to my website there, but the pamphlets are actually for you to share with your friends if that's something you would like to do, and then also the AOR QR code. Once you have your certificates filled out, go ahead and hand them to me because I do need to sign them, and these are very important. So since the new law has been enacted, it has to be a physical, the original certificate with the original signature. It can't be a photocopy or anything like that. So once I hand them back to you, uh, don't get them destroyed or anything like that. I'll charge you a small fee if I have to replace it, right? Kind of a thing. Okay, so let's go with this. Okay, so this class right here is the original 8 hour class, which you guys don't need, but there's some very important stuff in here that we're going to talk about. What you guys really need is this. This is the last 5 years of law. That's federal, local, and state. Okay, so we're going to kind of bounce. We're going to bounce back and forth between the two classes. Okay, so Colorado Revised Statute in the Part 2, Article 12, Title 18. That's what tells us exactly why we need to do um, concealed carry classes, right? Because legislature says that we have to do it this way in order to get the concealed carry. Okay. Most of the things we're going to talk about are law, right? Because that's what you need for the last 5 years. And then we'll also talk about during and after an incident, okay? During, before, and after, actually. We'll do a little bit of weapons handling on the range, and some of this we'll talk about. All right, so we're going to try to keep this short and brief because we still have to travel to the range and do our 50 round qualification. At the end of this, we're going to do a small test, and then it's open book, no big deal. I'll just, if there's something that you guys have a question on, I'll go to the slide and then you can just make your answer from there. So let's get into state laws. All right, like I said, it's here you go. Title 18. We have Part 1, Article 1, Part 7 covers justification and exemption from criminal liability. Part 12 covers general information regarding firearms and weapons, information on concealed handgun permit, and large capacity magazines, so on and so forth, right? So this is kind of where you find that law. All right. Let's go over some definitions because those are super important. The definitions of bodily injury, okay, means physical pain. All right, an illness or impairment of physical or mental condition. Okay, that's 181901. So that's Title 18, uh, uh, Article 1, Part 9. So Part 9 and then 01, right? 01, 02, 03, 04, right? Deadly physical force means force intended, natural, and probable consequence, which is to produce death and which does in fact produce death. So the intent of producing death, basically. And then deadly weapons means a firearm, whether unloaded or loaded, a knife, bludgeon, or any other weapon, device, instrument, material, or substance, whether animate or inanimate, that in a manner is to be used or intended to be used and is capable of producing death or bodily injury. So, question for you guys: can your hands be a deadly weapon? Exactly, 100%, right? So it doesn't really specify exactly what a deadly weapon is, except for it could be just about anything. I could pick up a water bottle, and use it as a deadly weapon. Okay. A dwelling is basically somebody who a building that is generally used for inhabitation. Like this house is a dwelling. Okay. Everybody knows what firearm is. That's pretty self-explanatory. Public place is pretty self-explanatory as well. But serious bodily injury, let's cover that. Okay, means bodily injury, either at the time of the actual injury or later time, involves a substantial risk of death, a substantial risk of serious permanent disfigurement, a substantial risk of protracted loss of impairment of the function of any part or organ of the body, breaks, fractures, penetrating knife wound, penetrating gunshot wound, or burns on the second or third degree. Okay, uh, so we have two definitions there. We have deadly physical force and serious bodily injury that also we need to really focus on when we're talking about defense of oneself, if that makes sense. Okay. All right. A verified instructor. That's me. Okay. So in July 1st, this thing started from HB 241174. They decided to up the hourly requirement, which there wasn't one before, but they're following. They're lagging behind California, so I imagine in the future they'll try to do 16 hours like California has. So, um, so get involved in politics and go testify when they try to do that. Large capacity magazine is anything over 15 rounds, basically. So, there's that. All right, use and possession. All right, so I highlighted the some of the subjective things that happen in law, right? Because we can't really specify what one thing is or another thing is. We have to generally understand that as a community, right? So we have justify, reasonably, imminent, reasonable, necessary. They're all subjective terms that define uh, physical force in this case, right? The use of physical force. Now, there's a difference between physical force and deadly physical force, okay? And you can use physical force, let's say, to remove somebody from a dwelling, let's say, not a dwelling, just property. You can use physical force to stop property damage, but you cannot use deadly physical force. There's a difference there, right? So if somebody comes to key your vehicle, yeah, you might want to use deadly physical force, but you can't do it, or because you'll go to prison. Okay. All right. Now the use of deadly physical force. Now we're going to really dive into this. Okay. Deadly physical force may be used only if the person reasonably believes that a lesser degree of force, physical force, is inadequate. The actor has reasonable ground to believe and does believe that he or another person is in an imminent danger of being killed or receiving great bodily injury. Now, I copied and pasted this from the law. Notice it says great bodily injury versus serious bodily injury. I think they're concurrent with one another, but anyway. So if you remember what serious bodily injury is, let's go up here, right there. Go ahead and read that for yourself. Good. Good. Okay. So, the other person is using or reasonably, remember this whole subjective thing, appears about to use physical force against the occupant of a dwelling. We just talked about what a dwelling is, or a business establishment while committing or attempting to commit burglary as defined in sections 184202, 184204. Okay, so there's some extra reading you'll have to do if you want to really dive into that. Okay, and that's where you can find that.
I have a question.
Yep.
We just bought a camper. Does that count as a dwelling? If they're at a campground, someone's trying to like break in or something?
Uh, I think yes, it would. I'm not a lawyer. I think it would be a dwelling because you would inhabit that. No one's seeing a camper out there like there's an RV out here. No one sees that camper and says, "Well, nobody's going to live in there," right? If that makes sense. I think I think that basically they're trying to differentiate between, let's say, a place you live or you sleep, you lay your head, versus, let's say, a business, right? So if I was in a tent camping, right, and somebody attacks me in my tent, I could reasonably argue that that was my dwelling at that time. But again, I'm not a lawyer, okay? So
I also have a question. So you cannot use deadly force if someone's destroying property.
correct.
If they're stealing money, like burglary, then you can.
You'll have you'll have to read the 184202 and 204, okay? Now just to kind of get a better understanding of that, but basically I think if somebody pulls out a firearm and points it at someone else,
Right.
that person is in imminent danger.
Sure.
If that makes sense.
Right.
So you can defend yourself and a third party, right? But they have to be in imminent danger, threat of imminent danger. Now they just say they're just standing there with their hands in their pocket, like, "Hey, give me your money,"
Right.
right? Then you probably can't use deadly physical force to prevent that from happening. Let's say. And the other thing is, let's say they're stealing a Snickers bar, you can't stop them or do anything like that, right? But I think if somebody is in imminent danger of serious bodily injury, then you can stop them with deadly physical force. Okay. Not that you should, because then there may be some repercussions, but we'll talk about some stuff later. Okay. Okay, now this one, yeah, the other person is committing or appears to be about to be to commit kidnapping, robbery, or sexual assault as defined in law.
Kidnapping is the only reason I.
Well, here's the thing. We have to be careful of defending third parties. For example, there are some social experiments that's happened in the past. I've watched one in New York. They were filming this. A little girl was walking down the street, and then somebody came up behind her, grabbed her, and took her into a dark alley. Right? Happened to be just a social experiment to see what people would do. Okay. Now let's say I saw that and I was like, that's not right, and I go and I freaking off the dude that was trying to kidnap or at least appeared to kidnap. Now that could be a mistake of fact, defense in law, but let's say in New York, let's say I was carrying, I wasn't supposed to carry. Now, even though it was a mistake of fact, they're still going to get me on carrying a firearm or whatever, right? So we have to be really careful on how we defend third parties, right? If that makes sense. Uh-oh, I gotta get a battery here. Let's take a break real quick, and then I'm gonna get this I gotta plug this in real quick. So we'll do. Why is this not working? We'll do a little break, and then I'll be right back.
Mom, I would like to know that the motorcycle runs.
What?
She said it just occurred to me that Austin might not know that the motorcycle runs. Did you know? Could you figure that out here?
I was told by Bill that it runs, but
Is the
yet
carburetor clean?
the battery is disconnected and there's pieces missing, and
So maybe it doesn't.
yeah, I'm not feeling.
I should text her. My mom might be like, it just occurred to me that you should know. That may not.
Yeah, I mean, there's wires dangling everywhere, stuff unplugged,
Okay.
side panels missing. You can ask her if she has the side panels
That's your
before I buy
favorite.
new ones.
It's your favorite kind of.
That's one thing you don't want to take anywhere looking like that.
All right. So we already went through this. Here, use of deadly physical force. That's is outside the home. Okay. Now, when we talk about inside of your home, basically what this is saying is that you can use physical force or deadly physical force to protect your home from somebody who is uninvited. Okay. And it says right here, any occupant of the dwelling using physical force, including deadly physical force, shall be immune from criminal and civil liability. Okay. Now that doesn't mean that you will be completely off the hook. Prosecutors can find creative ways to try to prosecute you. Okay. So just be careful with that. Even though it says that, you probably, if you can tell them to leave, like you're calling the cops or something like that, then maybe they can get out of there without you even firing a shot, let's say, and then you avoid that kind of negative attention on yourself. All right.
Or if you know that person in some way, shape, or form.
Well, even if you know the person and they're in your house uninvited, well, you can still use physical force or deadly physical force. Yeah, and then you can say, "Well, I was invited," or anything like that. Like it really just does depend, and then, so for my wife and I, if somebody breaks into the house, we have a plan. I'm not going to say it now because it's a lie, but we have a plan, and that plan involves um, a bunch of different things, but mainly a warning, like "Get the hell out of my house," kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
And then we'll go from there. All right, you for premises and property, you cannot use deadly physical force. I'm going to say it again. Cannot use deadly physical force to defend your premises or to defend your property. But you can use, like it says right here, the appropriate amount of physical force that is reasonably necessary to prevent or terminate what he or she reasonably believes to be the commission or attempted commission of an unlawful trespass. Okay. Um, Again, you can't use deadly physical force to defend the property. But if somebody comes in your house, let's say in the middle of the night, it's reasonable to assume that they're there to do maybe harm to yourself or others, if that makes sense. Okay. And that's the only way you can do it by 18174. That's the only way you can use deadly physical force. Okay. And dangerous weapons, we won't go through that. Basically, it's like short barrel rifles and stuff like that. Not a big deal. Okay, here we go. So it's class 1 misdemeanor if a person knowingly and unlawfully aims a firearm at another person. So if you're going to draw your firearm, in my point of view, it needs to be an imminent threat. If you ever even draw your firearm, okay, recklessly or with criminal negligence discharges a firearm. So don't go outside your house and just shoot up in the air, kind of a thing. Knowingly sets a loaded trap and leaves it unattended. Don't set traps and leave it unattended. Probably somebody had done that in the past, and they was like, "Hey, we got to make a law, right?" This one right here, a person who knowingly or recklessly discharges a firearm into any dwelling or any other building or occupied structure, or into any motor vehicle occupied by a person commits an offense of illegal discharge of a firearm. Okay. The exception there is a peace officer acting within the scope of his or her authority. Okay. Um, so just to kind of give you a story, I had a friend of mine had an accidental discharge in his home. It went through the wall because it was a 5.56 ball. It went through the wall, hit the roof of his garage, ricocheted, and then hit his next door neighbor's house. Nobody was injured, minimal damage. they charged him with this.
Wow.
Yeah, they charged him with this, and it took 18 months for them to come up with a plea deal, and he ended up just getting unsupervised probation for 2 years, which is just a fancy way to say don't get in trouble with the law.
Yeah.
So super important. Obviously, don't have an accidental discharge. And but things do happen. There are mechanical failures that can happen as well. Okay. You guys are all over 21, right? Not convicted of. Not convicted of a felony, not subject to domestic violence court orders or anything like that. So you're good there. After this, like I said at the beginning of this, just make sure you call the sheriff's department and they'll tell you exactly what you need to do. Okay. I can tell you, but then, if I make a mistake, then, I'd just rather them tell you. Okay. Carrying restrictions. The peace officer may temporarily disarm you. If they find out that you have a firearm or something like that, and you're walking around, and they say they need to disarm you or for their safety or whatever, just let them. Just let them. Just let them disarm you. But that doesn't mean you can't say, "Hey, officer, can you make sure your finger's outside of the trigger well when you pull it?" Because there is down in Florida, a black man was pulled over. He was doing everything correct. He was compliant and all that stuff. And then they had him get out, put his hands on the hood. They went to disarm him. The lady, which was right-handed, you can tell the officer was right-handed because the way her pistol was on her right hip. Okay, and then she used her left hand to try to disarm this man, and then ended up shooting him with his own damn gun. So, if they do disarm you, I would highly suggest, hey, I'm not going to resist your disarming me, but can you make sure you're diligent about not, shooting me with my own firearm, please? That'd be great.
Was that the one where he got shot in the foot?
Yeah, I think it's like the knee, foot, and all kinds of stuff. All right. Now the peace officer shall return the handgun to the permitting prior to discharging the permitting from the scene. So if you're not under arrest or anything of that nature and you're released, then they have to give you the firearm back. Okay, carrying restrictions. You can't carry in a licensed child care center, public or private school or colleges, government buildings, polling locations, places where security personnel screen you. Okay, you can't do that. Okay. CHP holders may leave their gun in a locked vehicle. When we're talking about schools and stuff, like when I go pick up my son, if I have to go inside the building, I need to leave my gun in the vehicle, locked away in one of these lock boxes, and I'll go over that in a minute. And then that's fine. Okay. Now, if you don't have a CHP or a concealed handgun permit, then you're not even supposed to have the firearm within 1,000 feet of the school. So that's federal law. Now, if you do have a CHP, it has to be. So if you go to Florida, even though you have a CHP for Colorado, you can't. You're still not able to go within 1,000 feet of a school in Florida. Let's say it has to be from the state that it was issued. If that makes sense. And then CHP holders may carry a concealed handgun adjacent to the parking lot. So, like, we're talking about government buildings here, okay?
Questions.
Yeah, does it have to be in a lock box or the locked glove box? Okay.
Glove box is fine, but it has to be locked. Okay?
How about a trigger lock?
A trigger lock? No. It has to be a case similar to this, or a glove box or a center console that can lock that cannot be seen through, right? So it has to be something like this.
So it's being visible is the problem.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And we'll get into that too, because there's a specific law that was just enacted not too long ago that states that how it's supposed to be locked away. Okay. Carrying restrictions. A person shall not knowingly and unlawfully and without legal authority carry, bring, or have in the possession a deadly weapon as defined in 181901. Okay. So that's like the short barrel rifles and stuff like that. Okay. Real estate and all improvements thereon of any public or private elementary, middle, junior high, high school, or vocational school. All right. It shall not be offense if the weapon is unloaded and remains inside the motor vehicle. The person at the time of carrying a concealed weapon had a valid written permit to carry the concealed issued. A person held a valid permit to carry a concealed handgun. Okay, so not a big deal. All right, uh, just if you have a concealed handgun permit, like we were talking about, if you're at the school, it needs to stay in your vehicle, locked away. If you have to go indoors. This is basically saying no city or municipality can enact any law that prohibits you from transporting firearms through their jurisdiction. Okay, so Denver, even though they have provisions on assault weapons, quote unquote, um, they can't prohibit you from transporting that assault weapon through their jurisdiction. Does that make sense?
Does that cross state lines as well, or no?
No, this is just Colorado. Just Colorado.
Oh, that's it, the state.
Okay. Loaded rifles and shotguns in your vehicle are not permitted. They are prohibited throughout the state. Okay. And the definition of a loaded rifle is one in the chamber. Okay. Pistols that are loaded are acceptable for lawful purposes. So if you have one on your hip or in your vehicle or something like that, it may be loaded. We already know how to purchase. Like everybody's got a firearm here, right? Got it. Okay. All right. So you're supposed to store your firearm away from unauthorized persons. Okay. There is this is possession under 18, of course. There are some exemptions. For example, a firearm safety course such as this. Um, who is on the real property under control of such person's parent. You guys got kids, right? You had to get how old are they?
3.5.
3. Okay, so they're not going to have firearms, right? Okay, so but when they, let's say your children turn 15 or something, you may give them permission to have a firearm on your real property that you own. Does that make sense? Okay. And the same thing is true. Like, let's say if my neighbor's kids came over here and the parents gave them permission to possess and my pistol, for example. Let's say we're doing dry fire training or something in my house. The parents can give me permission to allow their kids to do that. That makes sense, right? But it has to be under the control of the person given the permission, if that makes sense. Okay. If you lose or your firearm gets stolen, you're supposed to report that within 5 days of knowing. So don't call the cops and say, I think it went missing 10 days ago. All right. It needs to be within 5 days. So of knowing that it was missing, right? And this happens a lot. Criminals they'll go and they'll try to open doors like in parking lots, and then when they get in the vehicle, they're looking for firearms. They're not looking for your phone because phones can be tracked. They're looking for firearms so they can sell it on the black market and so on and so forth. Now it is a civil infraction on the first offense, and then after that, I think it's a $500 fine. All right. Okay. Vehicles. So as we were talking about before, this is what I suggest for your vehicle. This or this, okay? This one not necessarily for your vehicle because it's very cumbersome to get in and out, but this is definitely good for air travel. You take let's just talk about air travel real quick. You'll take your ammo in its original packaging out of your magazine and in there just like that. your magazine, what I'll do is, I think you actually have to do this. Yeah, take the magazine out of the firearm completely. It has to be unloaded. Put it in there, and then your firearm also needs to be unloaded, to include not chambered. Okay, and then you lock it away. All right. Now, when you get to the airport, this is going to be in your check baggage, and you're going to declare it. They're going to have you fill out something and just put it on top of the box, or maybe even inside of the box. Sometimes it depends. And then you'll go through an extra security screening, and the TSA agents there will say, "Is it unloaded?" They will literally ask you, and because that is, I can't remember. I think it's like a $10,000 fine or something like that. Yeah, it's pretty ridiculous, but it happens all the time because nobody understands how it's supposed to be done. So I really go through that on air travel.
Don't do a carry on because you'll lose it.
And you'll not only will you lose it, you will go to jail. You'll go to prison. Okay, straight to jail. Yeah. So I do suggest this, maybe not for air travel because it's so big, but I suggest it maybe for home. I have several of these throughout the house, and they're all the same. Because if I have to do something at night,
Sure, and quickly. Yeah.
then I can get to any one of my lock boxes, and they all have the same code, and they're all the same style, right? If that makes sense. Because I know my house better than anybody else. I can move throughout my house in complete black, pitch black stuff, to gain a tactical advantage, let's say, on somebody who's maybe breaking in my home.
Right, I got
Okay.
one on the wall where you put your fingers up there.
Yep.
Do the code.
Yep.
It pops open.
And then if you have more of those, if you have several, I would get the same style, right? So that way you can just, like I can go to this one, which usually sits there. I got another one over there. I got another one upstairs. They're all the same style. And I like to use numbers because if somebody comes over, I can just tell them the code, and then they can get in the lockbox if they have to. Whereas if it's biometrics, then the biometrics, there's a storage capacity in the biometrics. So your right and left hand and his right and left hand, and basically that's it, right? With numbers, there's no capacity. Okay. Um, Now for vehicles, again, I would suggest either one of these. Probably this one would be better, or if you can do it in your glove box or your center console, as long as it can be locked away, then that is fine. Unlawful storage of a vehicle is a civil infraction. That's it. All right, no misdemeanor, no felony. All right, home dwellings. It needs to be locked away from unauthorized personnel. That could be felons, that could be children, that could be anybody who's not supposed to have a firearm, and you should reasonably know that. So if you know somebody who's, let's say, going through domestic violence proceedings, then they would also be prohibited at that point in time. Okay, so now what's interesting here, we just have to say this, right? Now, it says without the permission of the juvenile's parent or guardian. Remember the other law we were talking about, the exemptions for under 18 personnel possessing firearms. That one of the exemptions was the parent gives the permission to the juvenile to possess the firearm for lawful purposes. Okay, that could be hunting, that could be self-defense, so on and so forth. Now, my son, who is going to be 21 in March, he and I built an AR-15, and he had complete control of the AR-15 here in my home. But I took that risk assessment upon myself, saying I don't think he's going to do anything nefarious with it. But if he did, then that would likely come back on me, if that makes sense. Okay, so just be aware of that. All right, some examples. No, you can't use this
Yeah,
for
that's
your vehicle storage.
I got that in mine, on mine right now, on the car.
I got you.
Yeah.
I'll edit that out. No, you're
I never carried around like that.
understood. Yeah, so yeah, I wouldn't suggest that even if it was acceptable. I wouldn't suggest it. It's just cumbersome, you know.
It is.
Yep.
Yeah.
So Same thing with this one. This one would be preferred, like my examples here I have here. If you can permanently affix it to, let's say, the vehicle or your home or something like that, that would even be better. All right, let's go through this real quick. Extreme risk protection orders. Okay. We have several definitions here. We have community member, educator, faculty member, but I'm going to cut to the chase here because I want to make sure we have enough time to get everything done. Here it is. The summary right here. So any of the following can request an extreme risk protection order against you. That's a healthcare professional, mental health professional, teacher or school administrator, a president, dean, professor, administrator, instructor, or a research worker in a college or university, law enforcement officer, a spouse, former spouse, a relative, or other parent or guardian of legal children, a past or present lovers. Okay, so the key ticket here is that it has to be within, they have to have some kind of interaction with you within 6 months. Okay, so a healthcare professional, if they, let's say they see you within 6 months and they decide they want to try to get an extreme risk protective order on you, then they have the ability to petition the court to do that.
What's an extreme risk protective order?
I'm sorry?
What is that?
That means that they will come and confiscate your firearms for 1 year.
Feels that you're not safe to.
Correct, but it's specified on who it is, and it's actually a lot of people when you think about it. Yeah. So, the big one here is even though the healthcare, mental health teacher, school administrator, and all these other people can do that, statistically speaking, here in Colorado, at least for now, they're not generally successful in getting an ERP on somebody. But when law enforcement does it, they are very successful in doing that. So, so just keep that in mind. Be careful on how you present yourself in front of these individuals, because typically speaking, in my point of view, they're not typically pro gun. Teachers, healthcare professionals, you know what I mean, they're not typically pro gun. So be careful of what you say. All right. All right. If it is found to be a legit claim, the court shall issue a temporary extreme risk protection order, and they have to notify the respondent the day of or the day after the order is signed. They have to schedule a hearing within 14 business days. Okay. The respondent is to surrender all firearms in their control or possession to law enforcement or transfer to a FFL. Law enforcement officers shall serve the respondent, so it can't just be somebody that is hired to serve you. It has to be a law enforcement officer. And upon serving the respondent, the law enforcement officer is required to take possession of all firearms. The respondent can, at the time, inform the officer of their intent to sell or transfer to an FFL, but the officer is required to take possession until the transfer is complete. Okay? And if law enforcement take possession of the firearms, they shall issue a receipt of all firearms taken. So on that, if that ever happens to you for whatever reason, make sure that they copy the serial numbers, makes, and models down verbatim. If there's any kind of mistake in that, and then a year later, after the ERPO is done, okay, and you go in there, hey, well, I'm here to grab this firearm, and if the 1 is a 2 or an A is a B, let's say, and it's wrong, they're not going to give it back to you. Does it make sense? Because there's a mismatch in serial numbers and stuff like that. So look at the receipt and make sure that receipt is valid.
I got a question.
Yes.
Going kind of backwards. When you have to report a firearm as missing, do you need to know the serial number?
You don't technically need to know the serial number, but if they do find it, that's the only way they're going to identify whether, and they're not going to give it back to you unless you have the. That brings me back to another point. Thanks for asking the question. You should have a receipt of the firearm purchase, proof of purchase, and the serial number. So that way, if they do recover that, then you can prove that you actually bought that firearm. Does that make sense? So they may not give it back to you unless you can show that it was actually yours to begin with.
Okay. What about stuff like handed down from like a
I
grandfather?
don't know.
Okay.
I do not know the answer to that question. That's definitely a good question to ask. I'll probably call the sheriff's department this week, see if I can get that answer for you.
Okay. Yeah, because probably over half of our guns were handed down from my grandfather.
They might have serial
No, they got serial numbers, but there's no proof that
Oh,
purchased
perfect.
them.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's it.
And
People
left
that
that to
stuff.
me.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. So
So the ones that we
that is a good question.
Just like go get it, get some like get your card titled if you didn't have a title.
Yeah, but that would be a registration.
Yes.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, my dad passed down his M1 carbine from the Korean War,
Right.
you know, and we just pass it around to our brothers.
All right. So in summary, we haven't talked about any confrontation yet, but secure a firearm. Okay, keep the firearm from unauthorized users. Attempt to de-escalate situations if required, and lawful. Use a reasonable amount of force necessary to prevent further harm. Okay. Call 911 early if you witness one of the criminal acts that has been identified in the Colorado Revised Statute. You're gonna have to do further study if you want to. And then I'm gonna go over the last 5 years of law here in a minute. Right now. Anybody need a break? No pee break or anything? All right. Federal laws, last 5 years. So this is the meat and potatoes of what you guys actually need for to get reissued a Colorado handgun permit. Okay. So no, in 2021, no major federal firearm statutes enacted. Okay. Now they initiated some rulemaking with frames and receivers and all that stuff. So we'll talk about that in a minute. The proposal led to a final rule and in litigation in the next couple of years. All right. The Bipartisan Safer Communities Act enhanced background checks for under 21-year-old purchases. New federal crimes: straw purchasing and firearms tracking. Okay, so straw purchase is your husband's a felon. He's like, hey, I'm a felon. I can't buy a firearm. He has you to buy the firearm, and then you give it to him. That's a straw purchase, basically. Okay, let's say that's the example. Extended domestic violence prohibitor to certain dating partners. So, if I think it was this one, if you're found guilty of a violent misdemeanor, then you're not able to have a firearm for 5 years. Okay, so a violent misdemeanor that could be some domestic violence stuff. Okay. Final rule on frames and receivers, parts kits, and stuff like that. Uh, they're treated as firearms now. Okay. And then the Bruin decision came out, established a text, history, and tradition test for Second Amendment challenges. So, when a Second Amendment is challenged up to the Supreme Court, they're going to go back to New York Serpa versus Bruin case, where they're supposed to, but there are some rogue judges out there, the justices that kind of spit in the face of the Supreme Court. Yeah. All right. Federal laws in 2023. Okay. Stabilized and braced final rule. Many braced equipment pistols treated as NFA, SBRs. The compliance period ended in May 2020, mid 2023. Litigation followed. Status verified by circuit court in 2024. The implementation continued. The enhanced background checks nationwide. All right, the bump stock ban in 2024 was invalidated. So, but state, I can't remember if Colorado issued a bump stock kind of a thing here. I can't remember that one. The Rahimi case actually upheld that you can be stripped of your Second Amendment right because of domestic violence stuff. So, engaged in the business rule, final rule. That's basically talking about FFLs and who is actually engaged in the business of selling firearms. A lot of this stuff really doesn't pertain to you guys. I'm just covering it. Okay, so remember that frames and receivers rule in 2022? Well, it was upheld in the vendor stock case. Okay, so you can't have a. Well, first of all, Colorado already enacted a law saying that you can't have a ghost gun, which is basically a firearm you make with no serial number. But the vendor stock rule did actually uphold that federally, so now even the ATF bans that.
What should you do if you do have one?
You were supposed to get it serialized prior to in Colorado prior to the law taking effect, which is long since passed. If you have one now, my suggestion, if somebody has one now, my suggestion is to get it out of the state as soon as possible, and then have it serialized outside of the state, and then have it transferred to you like a real firearm. That would be my suggestion. Because if you get caught with it, then that's definitely bad stuff. But then again, they have to have probable cause and so on and so forth. And then you have to let them in and inspect and all that stuff. So it's better just not to let the cops do anything. If they come to your door like they did to mine the other day, because let's just say they came to my door the other day and I talked to them through the door. I didn't open the door at all. I said, "What do you want?" And they had told me what they wanted. I said, "Nope," and then they left. Yep, and then they left. Right. So don't. And we want to be polite and so on and so forth, but there's a fine line between being polite and giving up your rights. Right. So if they come to your door, you can just talk to them through the door, and because if they have a warrant, they're coming in no matter what. Right. So if they don't have a warrant, then you can just talk to them through the door. Because if they find anything inside of your house, let's say through the crack of the door or something like that, that could be another way for them to enter the house, right?
Yeah. I'll ask later.
Escalator?
No, I'll ask you later.
Oh, I was like, what's the escalator? All right.
After the live stream portion.
Okay. All right. State laws repealed board preemption, allows local governments to adopt stricter gun regulations, which we're going to cover some of those here in a little bit. Safe storage law, which we just covered. Okay. Lost stolen firearms, which we covered. Okay. Now it's a 3-day waiting period throughout the state, except for one, which is I think it's Boulder. I'm gonna cover that in a minute. It's another slide, which is 10 days. Minimum age to purchase is 21. I don't know. You can go serve your country at 17, let's say, but you can't buy a firearm. I just don't understand that. Yeah, I think it does. Yeah, it's pretty ridiculous. Now, I can buy a firearm and then gift it to my son, let's say, but they can't go buy it.
Your son were to do something nefarious with that firearm.
Well, if they're 18, then they're an adult. So an 18-year-old can possess it, they just can't buy it. Yep.
But they can't possess a handgun. Only a rifle or a shotgun.
So then what's the point of having the increased background?
No, wait a minute. No, they can possess a handgun.
Oh, they could?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, they can't buy ammo for it.
But they can't. They
at least according to the sign at Big R when I was buying ammo for our class yesterday, it said no one under 21 can buy ammo.
My brother was asking you to buy him ammo for his.
So they can possess a handgun, but they can't concealed carry because they can't get a concealed carry license until they're 21. And then so they would have to be pretty diligent on where they would open carry, because Colorado is generally an open carry state, except for a couple places, which we'll cover in a minute. Right? Yes, it gets very, very convoluted. Very, very convoluted. Okay. Right. So, ghost guns prohibited, like I just talked about. That was enacted in 2023. Okay. Statewide sensitive places. So there are some sensitive places that we talked about: the government buildings, government bodies, courthouses, child license care centers. We already talked about that already. Okay, not a big deal. Unintended firearms and vehicles. We talked about that. State firearms dealers permitted. Okay, so now in addition to the federal license that state that dealers have to get, they have to get a state license as well. Pretty ridiculous. CHP standards in person 8 hours. We already talked about that. That's why you guys are here, because you're doing the 2-hour portion. All right, SB 25003, which was signed this year. That's basically restricts the manufacture, sale, transfer of specified semi-automatic firearms. It's very, very confusing. So if you want a specified semi-automatic firearm later, you're gonna have to do extra training on top of your concealed carry training. And I believe the specified semi-automatic firearms is only those that are gas direct, like your AR-15s, or gas blowback, which are your AK-47. So they're basically getting after assault rifles versus pistols, if that makes sense. Okay.
When it comes time, are you going to be able to do that training?
I think if I reading the law and understanding, I think I can do that training. So we'll see. We'll see what happens, right? Because I think it's going to be verified instructors doing the training, which are, but then the CHP, 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 CWP, Colorado Wildlife, they're gonna have to, they're gonna manage all that. I don't know why. Don't ask me. It's so like our legislators up at the freaking Capitol, they're retarded.
One more question about that. Will that be that like course be required for anybody that owns one?
No, if you already own it, you already own it.
Okay.
Period.
So it would be just to like purchase.
To purchase it, yeah. Yep.
I'm not trying to take that class, but he's welcome to.
Yeah.
I'll stick with the 22.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Okay, local laws. Okay, these are pretty important if you travel throughout the state. Okay, so you cannot open carry in Denver. Period. That's to include the city and county. Okay, concealed carry prohibited in all city-owned leased buildings, in all city parks. Okay,
That counts as a zoo too, in case you didn't know. The Denver Zoo.
there you go.
But Cheyenne Mountain?
Cheyenne Mountain, you can.
Yeah, well, yeah, El Paso versus Denver. Okay.
Oh, sure.
Boulder, open carry banned. Concealed carry banned in many city facility parks and events. 10-day waiting period to purchase. Of course, you're not going to be purchasing them there anyway. Boulder County, again, additional sensitive places beyond the state list. Okay, so be careful of where you carry there. Other examples, so Broomfield, Louisville, Lafayette, Superior, Edgewater, Lakewood, open carry bans, and broader no carry rules for city property, parks, and specified public places. So, unfortunately, the Supreme Court kind of screwed us up on this sensitive places thing, because they kind of hinted that you can ban sensitive places. Of course, define sensitive places. Hopefully, there'll be legislation later to define what a damn sensitive place is. Going up to the Supreme Court, and I would argue it would be anywhere that security is provided. That would be my argument, right? Because if the government, quote unquote, is providing that security, then technically, I guess you don't need your firearm to secure yourself. I don't know, but anyway, so that's the last 5 years.
But what are the like punishments if you're caught wandering? Like what has it replaced with your
I don't know the answer to that question. I imagine they're gonna throw all the local laws at you. And if they can throw any federal or state laws at you, they probably would too. If they can find a way to connect all that stuff, right? So for example, let's say in Lakewood, let's say you're gonna carry in a park, and then some cop sees you and goes, "You're not supposed to carry here," and then they arrest you. Then yeah, right, 100%, right? But then they're gonna say, well, you're concealed carrying, and so you took the concealed carry class, right? So you're supposed to know. So they're gonna say you reasonably were supposed to know, and but at the end of the day, I don't think parks are supposed to be sensitive places. Again, this is law, so it's like, what the hell is going on here? Yeah. So, just don't. Yeah, don't print.
Don't go north in Colorado.
Yeah, don't go north. Don't go to any of the blue counties, right? Kind of a thing. But so these are the places to stay away from: Denver, Boulder, Broomfield, Louisville, Lafayette, Superior, Edgewater, and Lakewood, right? If you can stay away, of course. Okay. Um, yeah. So that's pretty much it. That's it for the law portion.
So, question.
Yeah, go ahead.
I see healthcare facilities listed for Boulder.
Mm-hmm.
Healthcare facilities in the rest of the state, are we allowed to carry?
Yeah, that's another good
Just
question.
wondering because she's a nurse that works in a hospital.
Yeah, that's another good question.
I know my doctor.
There's nothing in the law that I had read that says healthcare facilities are off limits. Okay, there's nothing in the law that I've read to do that. So if we go here to sensitive places, let's go up here to look at that. It's Here we go. Yeah, there's nothing that I've read in the law that says you cannot carry in a healthcare facility. Now, if it has a sign,
That's it.
if it has a sign that says you're not supposed to have a firearm in there, then yes, you're not supposed to have a firearm in there. Okay, and I have seen those signs on healthcare facilities. Okay, yeah. So if there is a sign, they can prohibit that. uh, my my point of view, in any of this carrying is just don't let anybody know. Just period. Just don't let anybody know. That avoids everything. Obviously you're supposed to follow the law, and I'm not saying don't follow the law, but I'm saying if you are going to carry, you don't know sometimes the law like we were just talking about. There's no way that we would know the law in every single situation, regardless of where we are. Okay, unless we know that we're here in the home, we can know that, right? But if we go travel, let's say you are carrying, and let's say you are in Broomfield, and let's say you forget you're carrying, right? Because it's just a normal everyday thing. Um, just like you forget, like you have your wallet in your pocket or whatever, let's say, and then you're not, and then you go to a park, and you're like, oh, I didn't know, like you just said. Just don't let anybody know that you have it. Kind of thing.
Thank you.
Yep. Follow instructions. Take. Yep.
Whatever you ask
Don't
you
be
to do.
offended.
Yep. Don't piss the officer off. They're probably just like, maybe, hey, well, you didn't know, but now you know. So they may say that, or if they're going to, arrest you or whatever, then go ahead and take it. Follow rules, and then go from there.
Other infractions.
Yep. Exactly.
That one's frustrating because I always make sure I carry if I take Theo to a park.
Yeah, I mean,
Well,
if
you're in El Paso County, you're good, okay? Or if you go to a federal, like Pikes Peak, for example, you're good. All right. Anybody need a break? Break.
We have to memorize all that, right?
No.
Thank you.
It's going to be an open book.
Yeah,
Actually, I'm going to be working on that probably next year.
getting a law degree? That's impressive.
Try to. Okay, so let's talk about avoiding and managing an attack or confrontation. Okay, so We need to avoid, then deter, right, or de-escalate. Then and then if you have to use force, use the least amount of force possible, up to and then including deadly physical force to protect yourself or a third party. Okay, so there's different ways we can do that. We can take a different route, right? So that different route, let's say we walk in downtown Denver, we are concealed carrying, we're in a lawful place to conceal carry, for example, just out in the street. We see somebody, let's say a block down the road, they look like a no good. It would be better to, instead of going straight, go right or left a block and then turn and go in the direction we need to go, right? So we can take different routes, we can do stuff like that, and we do it all the time, right? You look up a route, let's say from here to, I don't know, let's use an arbitrary place. Let's use Colorado Technical University. Maybe there's a different route for me to avoid traffic. It's kind of the same thing, right? Taking a different route to avoid a confrontation could prevent the confrontation altogether. Okay. Having someone else present, of course, females well know this very well. As a youngster, if I would go into a bar or something, females usually have at least a pair, 3 or 4 or something like that, and they're protecting each other. So having someone else present while you're walking around, let's say downtown or something like that, that is also preventative or deterrence. Okay, using words of respect and kindness. So at the end of the day, if you escalate the situation by saying somebody's, let's say, uh, F you, dick, or whatever, then that's probably not going to be conducive to just de-escalation. Okay, so just use words of respect and kindness, even if they aren't being very respectful or kind to you. Okay, maintaining distance. Distance is your friend. Um, you might be the most badass MMA, karate, like jujitsu guy or girl, but there's always that one time that maybe they get a cheap shot in, and now you're laying on the ground. So let's just use our distance to our advantage if we have that ability to do so, and know and understanding your surroundings. So in this neighborhood, I pretty much know people in the neighborhood. If I see somebody who's not supposed to be here, then I can my alert kind of goes up a little bit and go, okay, what are they doing here? Are they trying to be nefarious or something like that? Um, if I go somewhere else, then I might not know and understand that surrounding. So as a security guard, I had to ask the cashier of a certain person that came in that looked like a no good. The cashier's like, that person comes here all the time. They mean no harm, right? Kind of a thing. So then I was like, okay, cool. Guy, then my guard kind of came down.
I got terrified the other morning after feeding the babies. I didn't know you ordered something with 4 a.m. delivery from Amazon. Somebody pulled into the driveway.
I get that.
Yeah, I was like,
It's so
"Who
dark in
just
this
pulled into my
neighborhood.
driveway?" They turned our house lights all the way up on the app, and I was like trying to peek out the window. I was like, okay, all my guns are upstairs right now.
Yeah.
Right. That's fine.
Um,
Sorry, I'll warn you.
yeah.
Usually don't come at
Well,
5 a.m.
yeah. Amazon just comes and they come at whatever time.
And they do sometimes they pull right into your driveway.
All the way up to our back door, and I was like,
Walk up
What?
the driveway, friend. Of course, then you might have met the dad, but there's been a lot of time in our driveway, apparently, according to our trash.
All right. By the way, I take bear spray and I spray my trash.
That's so brilliant because he's gotten past our like, ratchet strap.
Yeah, you just a whoosh, quick.
Yeah, he won't-
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, he might open it once, but then they'll learn.
Yeah.
Like they have done it here. They've learned not to touch our trash
He's
can.
learned that he can get into ours. So.
They
They're
actually
smart.
don't like it here. It's only torque board. So when it warms up in the winter time, they'll come out and get something to eat.
That's good to know because we also took our ratchet strap over the winter off.
They'll come out.
Bear spray. We go to the store.
Yep, Amazon delivers it too. Look, it's all connected. It's all connected. All right, situation awareness.
You didn't shoot the website.
Understanding your surroundings, we talked about that. Positioning yourself, okay? Leveraging angles on suspected up to no goods, okay? This could be, using some kind of barrier between you and that person, or placing yourself just placing yourself around witnesses in case something does happen. Okay, watching behaviors. Obviously, if somebody is like again, you say up to no good people. Uh, uh, yes, it is kind of profiling, but that's what we do. All right. You see somebody that you're like, wait a minute, that doesn't look like a person I want to hang around with or be close by. So I'm just going to avoid them altogether. Especially, let's say I'm going to use, I pick on homeless because sometimes, most of the times, that's the people I see like doing crazy stuff in the road or whatever, right? They're just like talking to themselves, like, okay, well, let's stay away from that, okay, kind of a thing. And I mean, I feel for them. There's something going on there, but at the end of the day, I don't want to be around it. Community knowledge, okay. We're all pretty much neighbors here, so we kind of understand what's going on up here, okay. And the workers' knowledge is like I was talking about with my my situation as a security guard. All right, during the confrontation, sometimes people just need some time. Okay, so yeah, you want to be polite, okay, you want to be stern, but maybe they just need time to calm down from where they are, from an elevated state. So having some patience in the situation may end up deterring the situation altogether. Okay, just de-escalating that. So an example I'll use again as a security guard. I was at a bank. Somebody came in. They were really pissed off because the bank had screwed up, and they came in and yelling and all this other stuff. And I didn't confront them. I just watched. I just watched. I didn't confront them or anything. After a little bit, that person came down. Took about 5 minutes. The person came down and they actually was able to resolve the situation. Now, had I came in there and inserted myself into the situation, let's say, that could have also escalated it, right? So you have to really be careful on that. Just sometimes patience really goes a long way, and it may be frustrating at the moment because maybe they're not being very nice to you, but it can go a long way. And obviously, you need to be prepared to defend yourself and call 911. Okay, if things heat up in an imminent threat situation. Uh, we're not going to watch these people. I do during the 8 hour course, but I'm not going to do it for this one. Yeah, I'm not going to do it during this one. But safe alternatives, if there's some kind of safe alternative, even though Colorado is not a duty to retreat state, if you can retreat, you probably should, right? Right. So if there's a safe alternative for you to do, lesser physical force, let's say, or retreating or something of that nature, then you probably should do it. Okay. You can't be the provocateur. It has to be immediate, and proportionality comes into effect too. Okay. So my wife is very petite. If I was to attack her and she shoots me, she would have an easier time explaining why she had to shoot me versus if she was to attack me and I was to shoot her. Make sense? Okay.
You shoot a 10-year-old in that ding dong ditch.
Taking advantage. Right?
What the frick?
And then reasonableness. So this is a big one, right? So the I pose the question all the time to customers, right? So I'm just going to ask each one of you guys, what's a reasonable amount of rounds to shoot?
Maybe 2 if you're bad.
3.
3.
2, maybe 3.
Okay. Why is there a number associated with that?
Because don't pick a dead horse. You know,
If you're shooting, it's to kill.
right.
It's not just to maim. So you do the 3.
Okay, so see, we have some different opinions right now.
Yeah.
Okay. So no, when you shoot to stop the threat. So reasonable amount of rounds, in my point of view, is how many ever times it takes you to stop the threat.
Sure.
If 1, good. If 10, fine. Does it make sense? It's the reasonable amount of rounds to stop the threat. Now, that's not to say that a prosecutor has you on the stand and they're trying to convince the jury that you were being unreasonable, let's say, even with one round. Okay, what about shot placement? Where would I want to shoot? What's reasonable?
Somewhere to disable.
Like, it depends on what you're shooting. Like, what kind of rounds are you shooting?
Body mass.
Okay. All right. What if I like I'm fairly well trained. Let's say somebody came at me and I shot him right in the face. One round.
Probably enough to slow them down.
but let's say that like could somebody argue that I was being unreasonable by shooting him in the face versus in the torso?
Yeah.
I had a customer who asked me, "Well, why can't I just shoot him in the knee?" And I said, "Ma'am."
Well, you can't hit it.
Well, I said, "Ma'am, have you ever tried to shoot a 3-inch target?
Yeah.
And then what about a moving 3-inch target, right? And then when we talk about disable, we're not trying to disable or kill anybody, by the way. We're trying to stop the threat from being a threat, period. Okay? Now, there is that saying, dead men tell no tales, right? Okay? But I'm not saying to kill them, I'm saying stop that threat from being a threat. Okay?
I guess to me that depends on the amount of the threat. If that person has a weapon,
Well, if it's imminency,
you know,
if you are in fear of your life being taken or serious bodily injury, you have the legal authority to use deadly physical force,
yeah.
right?
And for me, that's the only thing that
That's the only criteria, right? Doesn't matter the level, it's just the immediacy of you receiving serious bodily injury,
right.
if that makes sense.
Okay.
Okay?
Better than.
I do suggest after this class, you have time or whatever, find attorneys on retainer, find armed attorneys. These other the other one is Washington Gun Law. We will watch some of these videos because I think they're important. But understand what they're saying because it does pertain to that deadly physical force aspect.
I have one, I can't remember the name of it, 'cause my wife bought it and pays for it. I think they're in Texas.
Okay. Yep. U.S. Law Shield, I believe.
Yes, Law Shield.
Mhm.
Have that.
Which, well, I'll talk about a little bit of that here in a little bit, but because I'm not here to like completely promote things myself or other things, but I want you guys to get some good information.
Okay.
All right. So post confrontation, we want to make sure that the couple of steps that we need to take. We want to make sure that you and or your loved ones are in a safe situation. Okay. So you draw your firearm, you shoot the imminent threat, you stop the threat. Now we have to make sure that we are safe in our situation. Okay. Then if you are required by law to do emergency intervention, like a medical provider, let's say, then do that. If not, then that's on you whether you provide emergency intervention or not. Okay.
What a weird turn in mindset that would be for me.
Yeah. So preservation of preservation of evidence. Do not unload your firearm. The firearm, do not try to render it safe or anything of that nature, okay? Because it could be misconstrued as tampering with evidence, okay? Call 911 or call 911 or have someone else call them. I think you should call 911, but I also don't think you should give any kind of incriminating evidence on the line, and we'll cover that in a minute. And then definitely ask for police or EMS. Interaction with police, do not look like the bad guy when they show up. So what I like to tell people is place their firearm where they got it from. If it was in your waist, put it back in your waist. If it was in your bag, put it back in your bag. If it was in your vehicle, put it back in your vehicle. And do not have it in your hand. That is the number one thing because they are looking for a bad guy. They see somebody with a gun, they're going to assume maybe you are the bad guy.
Is putting it back somewhere tampering with evidence?
No, it is not.
Be like, I just want to say, just like set it on the ground.
You can set it on the ground. But I wouldn't set it on the ground and leave it because then somebody else can grab it. Let's say you need to maintain control of it in some way, shape, or form. Maybe it's setting on the ground and backing away from it and keeping eyes on it. And then when the cops come, like that's my gun, for example. Okay. And then this is the most important thing right here. Well, that's probably the most important thing. Don't get shot. But the next and most important thing is invoke your right to remain silent and counsel early and often. Okay, silent and counsel. Why silent and counsel?
Because you don't want to say the wrong thing.
And that's your right.
But why silence and counsel? And counsel. If you invoke only your right to remain silent,
Oh, that
and
makes
you
sense.
break your silence at some point in time, that evidence can be used against you. If you invoke your right to remain silent and right to counsel, and they press you to give them information, the information that you may give them because you're scared or something can be inadmissible in court. Silence and counsel. Remember, they're two completely amendments in our Bill of Rights.
Which they read to you when they approach you, so.
Gotcha.
So you should say that exact thing, like, I am invoking my right to silence and counsel, and then
Yes.
after that, then whatever.
And the rights are made silent.
Yeah.
That's
If I
it.
don't say it, then I forfeit that right.
Basically, yeah,
It's like,
It
so-
does
100%.
guilty.
100%.
Yeah.
Representation.
So, okay, so there's going to be three vehicles. There's going to be 3 videos that we're going to watch. And these are lawyers telling you the same thing I just told you. Okay, but I want you to hear it from lawyers.
And that brings us to kind of the first critical step, which is, your name. They got to know who they're talking to. The second critical step is providing the location of the services needed. Now, this probably needs to be repeated. I spoke to many dispatchers. They say, "Hey, you please convey to your people that they need to repeat the address because you're hyped up on adrenaline." But confirming the location where the service is needed. The third critical step is what services are needed.
And by the way, you always want police and EMS. I don't care if you think you're injured or not. I don't care if you want that guy to survive or not. Always ask for EMS. You don't know that you haven't been injured. Also, I mean, it's nice for your attorneys in court to argue. He didn't want him dead, right? He called for EMS as well. He just wanted to stop the threat, keep himself safe. He didn't want anyone to die.
Exactly right. The fourth critical step, and this is where Emily and I disagree, and we'll talk about this a little bit, is giving a short statement about the defensive incident. Now, I'm of the mindset that the kind of best short, truthful statement about the defensive incident is something along the lines of, "Hey, I was just attacked and I was forced to defend myself." That could be somebody tried to kick down my door and I defended myself. Somebody tried to rob me and I defended myself. It could come, but it needs to be a short, truthful statement about the defensive incident. Now, there's pros and cons to it, but what do you?
All right, so there's the first one. Nope.
You got a right to remain.
There it is.
You got.
All right. So this is my spill on attorneys on retainer. This is attorneys on retainer. They're backed by Attorneys for Freedom law firm. That man right there, Mark, is the head dude. His partner is I want to say Anthony. No. Andy Mercantile. Both of them, I talked to them personally, not just too long ago. They had me come down as an affiliate to talk to them personally and talk to the crew down there. So they have 5 teams that are on a weekly rotational basis. Each team has a minimum of 1 lawyer and 2 paralegals ready to answer the call if you have to call them if you're an AOR member. The only criteria for coverage is that you have to be a member, of course, that's with anything, okay? You have to be a member. You have to invoke your self-defense in good faith, meaning you can't go murder somebody or you can't attack somebody, okay? It has to be self-defense in good faith. And then you have to be either charged with a crime or reasonably likely to be charged with a crime, which if you draw your firearm, you're reasonably likely to be charged with a crime. Now, specifically speaking, if you are a member and you call them, they're going to take the case immediately. They're going to start working immediately to find to cover you, if that makes sense. And then if it comes to it that you can't actually say good faith self-defense, then they'll have the ability to drop you. So just don't attack anybody, for example. Uh, and then the last piece on this, as an example, there's a man in Florida, moved from Florida to back to New York. decided he was going to carry illegally in New York, had to defend himself in New York. Notice I keep saying in New York. He was an AOR member. He went to Rikers for, let's say, a week or two, I think it was. AOR found a lawyer that they partnered with in New York, and now they're gonna represent him. What's called pro hoc vice. Basically, they're gonna work together in tandem with each other to represent the client. Make sense?
Even though he was carrying illegally?
He was carrying illegally. Now they charged him with a federal crime. It got reduced or pled down to a misdemeanor, and now that man is home with his family today. Okay, versus spending the rest of his damn life in Rikers, let's say. Okay, so that's my spill on AOR. Use the QR code. Get your $25 off if you decide to go through them. Okay.
You got a right to remain silent. You got a right to ask for your lawyer. And the jury doesn't even get to infer something negative from the fact that you asked for a lawyer. Therefore, they don't even get to hear about it. So it's always good to invoke your right to a lawyer early and often. So I hope that clarifies things a little bit. When in doubt, just shut up. Okay, that's the safest thing to do.
Yeah,
Put
three.
in your name and where you live, with your license or something like that. No problem with any of that. But the question, what happened? Are you the shooter? Tell me what occurred. All of that in a very kind, nice, respectful way, just decline. Sorry, officer. I've been advised to talk to my lawyer first. Most officers will understand that. I've represented many police officers in my time. That's the advice that they give to each other. That's the advice they give to their kids as well. Most police officers will understand and respect the fact that you invoke your hard fought constitutional right to remain
Silent.
Mhm.
Okay, last one.
Requested. Now, for those of you who've spoken with 911 operators before, you will know that they do a fantastic job of keeping you on the phone. Everyone thinks they're doing this because they're trying to accumulate a bunch of evidence for the prosecution. Not true. What they are trying to do, though, is accumulate a bunch of information for law enforcement, because law enforcement will be arriving very shortly. And they know that there is an active shooting in place. That means they know somebody is armed. They know that there is danger, and they need to take control of that situation as fast as humanly possible. The more information that the 911 operator can retrieve is more information that they can then disseminate to law enforcement. The more law enforcement knows when they get there, the quicker they can take control of the situation. You are under no legal obligation to stay on the phone with the 911 operator. What I see happen frequently when people are involved in lawful shootings is they want to start selling the righteousness of it right away. They want to start explaining that they had every right in the world to pull the trigger. But folks, this is not the time to be doing it. If you don't believe me, ask any of your law enforcement friends what happens if they're involved in a shooting while on duty. It can be the most lawful, righteous shot in the history of the United States, and they're still not going to be talking to their department for several days. They will talk to their guild attorneys. Oh, yeah, they'll talk to them right away. They're going to make a statement to the department for days, okay? If they're not willing to do so, why should you be? So, after you've given all the essential information, hang up. Now, law enforcement is coming. And this is where we have to be realistic about things. Because even though we hold law enforcement to very high standards, and I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with that, I think sometimes we forget that they're humans just, like the rest of us. So really when they go to work at the beginning of their shift, they just want to go home to their families at the end. So when they get a call that we got a shooting in progress, an active shooter, an armed shooter, or something like that, you can imagine the emotional state that they are arriving in. It is a very volatile situation. And what you do or don't do in the next few minutes can be the difference between you living and hoping to be able to defend yourself and you dying as well. So this is what we need to do. Number one, when law enforcement shows up, please be able to identify yourself. I would walk up to them probably with my hands above my head. The firearm, if I reholstered it as I instructed you to do, would be down right appendix. I would walk up to them. They would presumably recognize me from the description that I gave 911. They would ask if I was the 911 caller. I would say yes. They would ask if I am armed. I would say yes, and I would say it's down here on right appendix. Notice my hands never left my head. We don't want to be reaching for the firearm to show them that we are armed. Now, at this point, understand, law enforcement needs to disarm you. And law enforcement is still trying to figure out, are you a good guy with a gun or a bad guy with a gun? And they really got to err on the side of caution. So the disarmament of you may be tantamount to an arrest. You may be ordered onto the ground. You may be handcuffed. You may have multiple officers doing it, but they are going to disarm you. Do not resist or obstruct in this point. Okay, this is a great way to get yourself shot. So you are going to be disarmed. At that point, you may be cuffed and put in the back of the patrol car. They may actually just let you sit out there and talk to you. A lot's going to depend on what other eyewitnesses are saying and what the evidence is showing and all of that stuff. But this is the most important thing. They're going to want to talk to you about what happened. They're going to want to hear what your side of the story. And you're going to want to tell them that. You're really going to want to tell them that. But in this instance, if you don't listen to anything else on this video, just listen to this. The only statement I want you to make to law enforcement in this situation is, I'm sorry, I cannot and will not make any statements with you until I've had an opportunity to speak with my lawyer first. Now, many people will go, oh my God, they're going to think I'm guilty. I'm lawyering up. No, 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 no. Good cops know exactly why you're lawyering up because you're a smart person and you're doing the right thing for you. It is innocent people lawyer up. So again, the correct statement and the only statement, I don't care if it's a good cop, bad cop routine. I don't care if they're walking up saying, hey, it looks like it's a pretty good shot here. Why don't you just tell us what's going on? It does not matter. The only statement you are to make is, I'm sorry, I cannot, will not make any statements until I first had a chance to speak with my lawyer. And then you will speak with your lawyer. Then you will understand whether or not you have a story that's worth telling. Look,
All right. So they all pretty much say the same thing.
Mhm.
Police officers trained to get information out of it.
Oh yeah. 100%. 100%. And by the way, it's not illegal for them to lie to you, so they can lie to you. Okay. So, but you can't lie to them. Anyway, whatever. I digress. All right. They all say the same thing. Remember, the Miranda rights say anything you say can and will be used against you in the court of law. They do not say can and will be used for you, against you. This is the big takeaway here. It will be used against you no matter what you say. All right. So let's run through a couple scenarios. Ma'am, you just had a self-defense situation. What's next?
I'm gonna call 911.
Okay. Ring.
First, I'm gonna make sure myself and my kids are safe.
No, good.
And then I'm gonna call 911.
You okay? Okay. So you call 911. I'm the 911 operator.
And also the
Yeah.
nurse.
Yes. What's your emergency?
They'll take care. And I'm wondering if I could say something like, "There's been a shooting.
Yep. You could say that.
Here's the address."
You're not lying.
Right.
No.
Yeah. And I'm
Oh,
not also saying
okay.
I shot someone. I say there's been a shooting.
Okay. 911. This is what's your emergency?
There's been a shooting. Here's where I am. And then I'd probably just be like, "Here's where I am again." Hang up.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
They can probably track
That was
themselves.
that's probably
I have
good.
a
Yep.
shot.
Yep.
So,
That's probably good. Okay. Sir.
I agree.
911. What's your emergency?
I have to make something up.
Mhm.
Okay, yeah, there's been shots fired.
Okay. Where? What's the location?
17815, yeah, blah, blah, blah.
Okay. And you're what's your description?
My description?
What are you the shooter?
No.
I would like to speak. for
Okay. Oh no. But you had the situation, right? So you see what I'm saying?
Hmm.
So if they ask you are you the shooter and you say no, but you were the shooter.
Oh, okay.
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 So you had the self-defense situation.
Okay, that's what I did.
And I say 911, what's your emergency?
No, I didn't realize that was a shooting.
Okay, gotcha.
I was just doing a situation.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, so you had the situation, you had to draw your firearm and stop an imminent threat.
Yeah.
And then you call 911 and then 911's like 911, what's your emergency?
Mhm. There's been shots fired.
Okay.
I like what she said.
Yeah. Exactly. So okay, all right, so you're on the phone with me, okay, let's say. At what point will you hang up?
When you start us.
When they start asking you questions.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if more questions start coming out.
Okay.
They already know the address. They know that shots were fired. We need help. That's
Yep.
it.
Okay, good. Perfect. Go ahead, your turn. 911, what's your emergency?
There's been a shooting at 1310 Debbie Place.
Okay.
Police and EMS.
Are you safe right now?
I think you could say yes or no. Well, I guess
Are you safe? Are you in a location where you're safe right now?
that's a tough question.
Yeah, it is.
Because if you say yes, then they're like, was it self-defense? And we're saying,
I don't know.
But they don't know.
Yeah,
Well, no,
right.
no, 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 no. You just call. You
So-
called the. You
right.
called the dispatcher. They're just trying to make sure you're in a safe area.
Right. So I guess
Because
you
if there
could say-
was a shooting, if you say there's a shooting,
Yeah.
they're going to ask you, "Are you in a safe area to talk?"
And I-
Okay. Are you in a safe area to talk?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Like, did you witness the shooting?
Uh-oh.
Just come help me.
Yeah. I'll probably just say, can you please send help?
Okay.
I need to go.
Is there somebody injured?
Yeah, I said, please send police and EMS.
Okay. All right. All right. What's your description?
I think you forgive them that, right?
Black shirt, tan pants.
All right. What's your name?
She's not right. That's allowed.
Austin.
I don't know exactly what they're going to say, but basically they're going to, at some point in time, when they start asking specifics about what you did,
Yeah.
that's when you can hang up. So they're probably going to say something like this: 911, what's your emergency? You're going to say, hey, there's been a shooting, or something of that nature. You might even say, hey, somebody attacked me. I had to defend myself. You could probably say that because you didn't say how you defended yourself or anything of that nature.
Mhm.
And then I'm going to say, okay, cool. What's your name? Dave Williams. Where you're located? 1345 Style Drive, so on and so forth. What's your description? I'm wearing a black shirt, black pants, black shoes, so on, whatever the case may be. Okay, now when they start saying, "Hey, are you the shooter?" Then it's like, okay, you have, because once they start getting into those details, because they're getting your location, who you are. Once they have the location, who they are, and what you need, those three elements, and they start asking more specific things other than that, then it's like, okay, bye. And then if you have AOR or you have some other program like you have US Law Shield, then that's when you would call and be like, hey, I have this. Now that's the other thing. US Law Shield, I don't think you have a attorney-client privilege. So anything you say to them can be subpoenaed.
Ooh, okay.
I think. Now, you look into it. I think that's true. You do have attorney-client privilege with AOR
Okay.
immediately.
How do the prices compare?
It's 35 a month per individual. Unless you do a family plan, it's 25 a month per individual. Yeah. All right. So let's see where we at. You got questions?
Save it. I was like trying to think what I was gonna say, but I think that I read recently that it takes 30 seconds for them to figure out the location of your phone for EMS. So that's like,
I don't know. I don't know if that's true.
Okay.
Maybe it is. I don't know. I don't know if that's true or not. But at the end of the day, they're still going to be recording you.
yeah.
Yeah. So
Like,
uh, stay on there as long as it takes you to give those three elements. Like, you need police in any emergency. There's been shots fired, or there's been a shooting, or something vague, something super vague, right? Because you don't want anything you say, because they're recording, of course.
Mhm.
And again, anything you say can and will be used against you, even though you could have been justified from the very get, right? Does that make sense? So, all right. You don't need self-defense insurance, quote unquote. Some of those companies are insurance companies. AOR is not an insurance company, so
Yeah.
take it for what it is. Okay, let's do. I sent you guys. Let me stop this live stream real quick.